What's going on, everybody, and welcome back to the channel. So today we're going to be making an old school hip-hop beats, like something you would hear in a 90s hip-hop beat. So if you're ready for this one, let's jump right into it. Alright, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to pick out a sample that gives me some bluesy or some old school vibes to it, and then we're going to chop it up. Alright, I like the vocal chops in this one, so we're going to use this sample. So if you double click onto the sample here, it'll open it up in Simpler, and you can go into the splice mode right here. We're going to play with the transients, just so that the notes play out a little bit longer. And we can start messing around with it on our keyboard. And then after you have your pattern down, if you need any of the notes to be longer or maybe they're playing a little bit too fast, you can actually go into the transients here and stretch that out to the appropriate way. So I'm going to go ahead and listen to this a couple times and see if I need to change any of these. So you can see, for example, when this last part is playing right here, it kind of seeps into the next notes. This is something you want to get rid of just so it sounds more like more of a smooth transition. Okay, once you have those all lined up and good, you can play with the fade in and fade out knobs just to make it more smooth when they're going in between different parts that are playing here. And guys, you can change this to complex pour right here and turn the formats down and the envelopes down if you want as well. And I'm just going to go in here and I'm going to put a touch of reverb on it just so when it's sliding between different elements, you can see that some of them go out and there's still a little bit of a gap. So I'm just going to have a little tiny bit of a reverb tail. Nothing crazy though. Alright guys, I switched this to the large ambience and I put it up to like 6 seconds. But I'm also going to dial this in because it's obviously really wet from that. Alright, so now I'm going to dial it in. I'm going to pan these just ever so slightly so that there's a tiny bit of stereo separation. We're going to EQ this reverb section right here just to take out any like really lows or highs because we want the reverb part of it to sound really nice. Just taking the good parts. We're also going to EQ out the whole signal, the last EQ here on the chain. We use scalar 2 and drag in that sample and it's going to detect what scale it's in. Okay, so we're in C Lydian. Okay, so we're going to take this to A Lydian just so that we can transpose those vocals down a little bit and kind of get a more of a drawn out feel. Alright, so we just transposed it 3 right here. And I think I'm going to add a little bit of vinyl distortion so that it has a little bit of an older feel to it as well. Alright, so we're just going to use the clean tape because it gives it an ever so slight effect and I might just bring up the static a little bit more. Alright, I'm going to get a bass picked out here. I'm going to use the Rickenbacker and I'm going to use this Rapture preset here as well. And I'm just going to start playing things on the keyboard until I find a groove that I like. Alright, so here's what we got from me playing it on the keyboard. I like that these notes are played a little bit behind because it gives it more characteristic to it. I might go play with the velocities and I might turn some of them up just a tad or just maybe move these back a little bit more, just kind of get the feel a little more there. So I'm just going to play with this really quick. Alright, so I changed it up a little bit and I made this into 4 bars. And what I'm going to do is for this first set right here, I'm going to make this a double note instead of a single note at the end here. Okay, so I duplicated the bass track, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to select this other one they have called palm muted. The first time I just used the regular bass, but the palm muted gives more feels if you were to hit the bass with your palm versus with a pick or with your fingers. So it gives it some different transients that make the sound more real. So we're going to layer them together. Okay, so now that I got these two tracks, I'm gonna go ahead and look in these MIDI notes and find places where the palm muted can be played and where the bass is not being played. So right off the bat, I'm thinking like getting rid of this might sound really cool if the palm muted was playing this. All right, I'm just gonna leave these notes on the palm muted, and then I'm gonna go in and get the volumes right so it sounds better. All right, guys, so what I did for the bass here is I put a little bit of glue compression on it just to kind of mellow some of the highs that were coming from the palm muted, so it kind of evened out the sounds a little bit there. Just a little bit of light compression. So you can see it only jumps up super high every once in a while, so it's definitely calming that down. And then I EQ'd out a little bit of the highs here. Next, what I did is I played a little kick drum by hand here on the keyboard. So you can see it captured the velocities that I used, and they're all a little bit off grid. So I kind of got the groove down, I got in the groove, and I started playing it on the keyboard, and this is the kind of rhythm that I came up with for kick. And what I did is I ended up playing it faster in a certain spot, so I made that its own kick drum. So this comes in on a second kick sample that I'm using on this track. So I had it in here originally, and then I just deleted it, and then I put it into the second kick sound. And these are both like old-fashioned, more thumpy style kicks. They're not like trap kicks, so decap has some good sounds for getting kind of that old school vibe and getting something gritty and different. So this is what it sounds like with the kicks now. The snare is also off the grid a little bit. I also played this on my keyboard, but as long as they're off the grid and it has sort of a swing to it, then you're good to go. This is a just blaze snare. He's got like that older style snare. So what I did is I took this sample and I turned down the sustain and I turned the decay all the way down to like 1.5 so that it was a lot shorter than the original. All right, so with the sample now, this is what we have. All right, let's start getting some hi-hats. I'm also going to use Decap's drum kit for the hi-hats as well. I'll show you what I mean by he has a lot of different kind of sounds that you're not going to hear in most trap packs. We're going to cut the lows out of the static, just in case, so it's not interfering with anything. Alright guys, so I worked on this track a little bit more, and what I did is I ended up pitching down the lead again. So I pitched down the instruments, and then I had to pitch down the bass as well to match that. I added in a little shaker sound just to give it more texture in the background. And I gave it some FX like risers right here before the drop hits, and then I just arranged it, and I took a little bit of time to mix it out and play with it a little bit. So this is what we have now. guitar rig on the bass, and a decapitator. And I obviously pitch down the melody. Alright guys, so that's how you make an old school hip hop beat. If you enjoyed that one, smash the like button for me. And if you're new to the channel here, subscribe bro, because I'm uploading daily tutorials and you're not going to want to miss out on them. But besides that, I'll be talking to you guys again in the next one. Peace out.